Good morning, everyone. Jim Clark here at the Synchronicity Sanctuary to share a contemplative focus with you today. And the focus that I want to share with you is the stories we tell ourselves. How real are they? The majority of people in our times are under the influence of the default, the dominant negative polarity, which simply means they have no experience of unity. Separation dominates their experience. And from this illusion, their ego creates all the stories of who they are and what life is. This is the first stage of the creation game. Once the experience of the illusory other is fulfilled, then the momentum to move into unity consciousness begins. We begin our journey to discover and actualize our true nature from beginning to end. The creation game is simply the primary intention in consciousness in us to fully be itself. The object, separate and different from the subject, is the illusory other. The identification with this separation illusion is the cause of all conflict and resultant suffering. Self-negation and self-worth are always in relation to the illusory other. And isn't that what we experience a lot in ourselves, even when we meditate and we are getting more and more balanced? Our self-worth issues, if you examine them, are always in relation to somebody else or some other situation with other people. So, stories and the ego-driven mind, which is a very, very powerful element in our existence here, and is highly underrated in terms of the impact that it has on us and our experience of life and our experience of ourselves. Um, because if you fill your mind with what's on the media, which is mostly negative, it's reflecting all the conflict and so forth that's out there in the world for most people, and that's what people watch every day. So they're entraining themselves for more and more of the same, really. Because if you don't bring any balance to yourself, if you don't give yourself the opportunity to experience something other than separation, then that's all you're going to know. And it's very real and it's very compelling to get involved one way or another, or to avoid one way or the other. So it's a very powerful creation, and we are all in this creation game, regardless of where we are in it. And so there's no way, if you get away from telling stories, if you just stop telling yourself stories and just observe, you will notice that everyone is being, life is orchestrated. Life is not erratic and something compulsive in itself. If you look at nature, its creation is so good. I mean, there's birth, death, there's suffering there too, but animals just are part of nature and they fit into nature perfectly because they don't question it. They simply follow the role that they're given within nature. And so it goes on and on and on, unless there's something outside uh, that might interrupt that balance that they're a part of. But we as human beings are also in balance in the sense that most of the people are here to journey the separation and the illusion of separation that comes with trying to be who you are not. We are all consciousness. And if we're all consciousness, then that primary intention is certainly active within us. And if we are not experiencing the ultimate realization that we are consciousness, then we're on our way to there. Huh? I mean, there's billions and billions of people in the world, so consciousness is not in any hurry from the perspective of our human experience here to be done with this journey. It can go on for who knows how long. So we are all in it. We're all meditators who, if you're watching this, you're probably a meditator. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother with it. You wouldn't be attracted to it. So, in the lifestyle of meditation and creating balance, so that you become more aware and generate more of a unity experience within yourself. I know in my journey that meditation began after I had my awakening experience and realized that there was so much more than what I'd ever dreamt of in myself and in the world. And yet, when I returned to being myself, even though I had the energetic experience and the blissful experience within myself of that experience, there was still separation. There's still people. Everything seemed like it was normal on the outside, right? But on the inside, it was not normal at all. And this is where, when you begin the journey of realization, that's where that split begins, where your internal experience doesn't match what you used to experience, and your outside world is just about different. You know that it's not separate, but on the one hand, but you experience the separation because you're in a body, and you're surrounded by people and bodies, and you're surrounded by in a world where you're walking around inside of a context where you are separate, literally separate. And so it's a very, very powerful illusion. And perfectly made, of course, because we made it. We created this as consciousness. And when you're a human being and you're limited in your perspective, then that's where the notion of God comes from, right? It comes from the fact that we can't, or we believe we cannot experience ourselves as anything but separate individuals struggling with life. And so this whole scenario of gods and judgment and so forth and so on naturally is generated out of that situation. And we still see people fully involved with that kind of a scenario. And their belief is the right belief. And anybody else is not as good as they are, and so forth and so on. It's kind of elementary in that way, but it's also a challenge to us who meditate to continue our journey and try to keep our focus, because it's not a quick fix. I mean, it is in some ways. In the beginning, I noticed there was quite a radical shift in myself, and continues to be after maintaining my balance by living here and meditating every day and so forth, and watching my diet and so forth and so on. And the state of being that comes out of that continuous journey, that maintaining that balance, that state of being, which is the opposite polarity of the external world. It's the opposite of the other. It is the unity consciousness coming awake in you. And so as that happens, your own bliss expands and grows stronger and stronger. I know when I'm running around in town doing errands and so forth and so on, I'm in the world and I'm separate from everybody I see. That there's that element of the experience is happening. But then there's also the unity consciousness that I experience within myself. And so when I speak to people or interact with people, I don't feel like I'm interacting with a stranger. I don't feel like I can't speak or interact because of some self-worth issue or whatever. And I just naturally kind of act like everybody's friend, because that's the expression that it flows from me, because I feel that way inside. And that's the expression that I express externally in the world when I'm out there, because I'm not embroiled in my own conflict about who I am and what life is. I'm not judging myself. I'm not exercising uh, self-negation. Okay, I'm exercising self-worth as much as I can as consciousness, as someone who is blissful all the time. And so this is a natural shift that comes with in life when you are a meditator and you stick with it and you really get into it, and it becomes a daily part of your life. Because meditation, of course, is just a balancing technique. It's not a belief system, it's a balancing technique. When you close your eyes and when you do whatever you do to bring your focus inside with the notion of unity consciousness as part of your meditation, then you begin to build on that reality, which is the opposite of all the realities that you knew before. So it's a slow journey, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but it does happen, and there are always experiences that come by and tell you that that's the truth. That separation is the illusion, and that you are not a suffering human being. You're a blissful being. You're a blissful consciousness. And pretending to be something other than you are, simply by the fact that you got this body, huh? And this body has a beginning and an end, and it suffers, it has pain here and there, and so forth and so on. And so that reality, which is what most people are limited to, is the dominant, uh, is dominating the media, because most people are involved with that as the be all and end all of their whole life. So when you meditate and you grow your awareness and you become aware that there's so much more to life than that, you also become aware that you can't tell anybody that. You can't just walk up and say, hey, there's so much, start talking to somebody about unity consciousness like a preacher, because they don't have anything to relate to in that. It's not about believing, it's about the experience of unity consciousness that you have within yourself, even if it only happens when you're meditating in your experience. Even if it only your awareness gets deep enough to tap into that, it becomes a part of you that makes you so different in terms of how you look at the world around you. Even though it might be doing what it always does, you understand that that's what it's doing, and that is consciousness fulfilling the primary intention within itself to fully be itself. And in order to fully be itself, it first has to pretend to be other than it is. We are pretending to be other than who we are. And in that, once we have fulfilled that part of our journey, then we move into our realization aspect, and we begin to be fully who we truly are. And that means we meditate, we get balanced, and we grow our awareness and become more and more blissful, and our self-worth is not an issue, because we're not comparing ourselves with somebody else, because we know that those expressions of consciousness are just that, and we are all consciousness. So ultimately there's no difference between us at all, and we're just one big happy family if we could just get there. And that's what people are doing. So it's not our job to get people to do it. They're on their way, no matter where they are in that process. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. The stories we tell ourselves, how real are they? A question that goes all the way back to the days of Socrates, when he was demonstrating his ability to shatter most people's beliefs once they started to really question them. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you today, and I'll be back again Monday to share another contemplative focus with you. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you here again next week.